Shades of heroes, farewell. Your descendant departing from the seat of his ancestors bids you adieu. Abroad or at home, your remembrance imparting new courage, he'll think upon glory and you. Though a tear dim his eye at this sad separation, 'tis nature, not fear, that excites his regret. Far distant he goes, with the same emulation, the fame of his fathers he ne'er can forget. That fame and that memory still will he cherish. He vows that he ne'er will disgrace your renown. Like you will he live, or like you will he perish. When decayed may he mingle his dust with your own. So that was a 17-year-old Lord Byron. So that's not Shakespeare. Yeah, so I'm doing this week's poem a little early because my weekend's actually kind of loaded this weekend, and like I mentioned in my last video, I'm shifting from Shakespeare for the next few weeks, since I'm working on a piece with a romantic focus, and the main focus of that play is especially for my characters, is on Lord Byron and his poetry. So this piece is an excerpt from Hours of Idleness, which was published when Byron was 19. So holy shit. At least coming from someone who has never written anything of substance. It amazes me when people write stuff at such a young age. It's thought he wrote this even earlier. 1806 is what I've seen. I've also seen 1803, which would put him at 15. Like, what the fuck? But there's actually a very famously scathing review of this particular piece is referenced in a review by I'm going to butcher his name. His name is Henry Brougham. In 1808, he published a scathing review, and some of this is really great early 1800s burn. So about this piece specifically, he says, we put it to his candor whether there is anything so deserving the name of poetry in verses like the following written in 1806, and whether, if a youth of 18 could say anything so uninteresting to his ancestors, a youth of 19 should publish it. And then this other fantastic burn. In the life of 9 men in 10 who are educated in England, the 10th man writes better verse than Lord Byron. Like, that's, and it goes on and on and on. And so this scathing review, so this was published in 1808, which is about a year after this was published. I think this was 1807 this was published, which would make Byron 19. And so when this was published, so when that review came out, it was anonymous at the time, and then it was later found to be Henry Brougham. That prompted one of Byron's next major works, which is English Bards and Scotch Reviewers, where he essentially anonymously, or he published it anonymously, but people figured it out quickly who it was. He just rips all these people to shit in this satire. So it's interesting because I don't really have a lot of sympathy for people who like to tear people down. So, I don't think I'd get along with Byron very well, but I don't think I'd get along with this Henry guy either. I honestly, I enjoyed this little excerpt, which is about him leaving his family home of Newstead Abbey. And I mean, he was raised by his mom, and he was a lord. He inherited the estate at a young age, so it was thrust upon him. He has this, and when I read this, I find it to be sincere, especially if it's coming from like a 15 or 16-year-old. It is an interesting thing to think about, though, of how much bitterness and cynicism exists in this young of a Byron, and you can't help but notice that he makes excessive mention of fame. Um, uh, One of the lines, he'll think upon glory and you. That's a specific order in which he's listed: glory and family. And so I think that there are maybe some hints at some, obviously the vanity that he was so well known for. It's ironic that he says uh, that he vows he vows that he ne'er will disgrace your renown, when obviously at this age he was certainly not the scandal followed personality that he became only a few short years after. Um, but it's interesting to kind of see those, and I wonder how much of the bitterness was boiling under the surface, um, and how much of it was resultant from being torn to shreds by these kind of other pompous assholes. Um, so I mean, yes, certainly his actions speak. He does. He in this piece he wrote a lot about. So this is only like the last third of this particular poem that he wrote about leaving Newstead Abbey, and he goes on to talk kind of a lot about his ancestors, and they fought in wars, and had these kind of, and had glory, had fame, and so he goes on to fight for Greece, I think, if I remember correctly. And so he fights. He's a soldier, and he he does kind of he inevitably did live fast and die quick. And even in this really early writing, you can kind of see he was thinking about that. So it's an interesting insight. And so what I plan to do over the next few weeks is kind of go chronologically through some of his work. Having seen some of his later poetry, I do think he makes pretty significant strides. I mean, this is, to me, it's this. I mean, I don't know. There's not really a lot of beautiful metaphors, but that's not really the piece. The piece is it's a biography. It's him. It's a diary. Like these are his thoughts. His literal thoughts, not his metaphorical thoughts. So I mean, I don't know. I don't take too much issue with the content there, but he does end up writing some really, really beautiful poetry. So yeah, that was an excerpt from Hours of Idleness, and you can expect another one, not this upcoming weekend, but the following. So yeah, thanks for watching.